let's get more analysis by Michael Kugelman. He's the Deputy Director in Asia Program at Wilson Center, and he joins us now from Washington, D.C. Thank you very much for joining us. So, Trump's first official visit to India, why this interest? What's in it for him?
Well, I mean, Prime Minister Modi essentially offered him a grand spectacle, an opportunity to have tens of thousands of people screaming his name and cheering him on. And that's, of course, what Trump likes. And I would actually argue that had Modi not made that offer to have Trump participate in this event in this huge cricket stadium in Gujarat, President Trump may well have said that he would not want to go to India, especially because this trade deal that had been hoped for is not going to materialize, as I understand it, and there won't be a trade deal signed. And so it's a pretty big thing, I think, for India, the fact that you have a U.S. president who doesn't like to travel far away and who's very fixated on his re-election campaign here in the U.S. He's willing to travel very far to spend a few days in India with his friend, Prime Minister Modi. I think it's a pretty big achievement for India, for sure.
Trump did say, though, that we are not treated very well by India, but unlike the Prime Minister. What does he mean by that?
Well, he feels that India's trade policies have harmed or have not been helpful to the United States, and that's why one reason why there has not been the trade deal that so many people thought there would be. And I think that is true to an extent, that India has had fairly protectionist policies when it comes to trade relations with the U.S., though, of course, it works both ways. I would argue that the Trump administration has been quite protectionist. It has been quite hostile to free trade policies in many contexts, which has made it difficult to get that much elusive trade deal between the two. But I think the last thing he said in that quote that you mentioned is most important. He said that he likes Prime Minister Modi, and I think he genuinely likes him. I think there's a strong chemistry between the two men, and I think that's another reason why President Trump was willing to make this trip to India, even in the absence of a trade deal, because he seems to have genuinely hit it off with the Indian Prime Minister in their previous meetings, and I think he looks forward to engaging with him again in India.
Well, genuinely liking a president or prime minister won't secure a trade deal, though, will it?
No, not at all. And it comes down to the politics that I mentioned before, that Trump has this America First policy in which he believes that going too far on free trade could imperil jobs in the United States, and that's why he's been very cautious. But India has been as well. You've had these two countries for quite some time that have struggled on the trade fronts, but particularly now when you have two populist, nationalistic leaders who don't want to go too far in pursuing free trade because of fears that it could have for jobs back home. And India, of course, has had a major unemployment crisis for quite some time. And so I think those factors weigh considerably on the minds of both leaders. And indeed, you're right. Just because these two men get along, just because they have a so-called bromance, doesn't mean that you're going to get this trade deal that both sides really seem to want, but they're not quite there yet.
And Michael, he did mention in the past, I remember US President Donald Trump, to be a mediator when it comes to the Kashmir conflict between Pakistan and India. Do you think that will be on the agenda?
Well, I imagine India would hope that it would not be, but would not be surprised if President Trump brings it up. This is a president who believes that Kashmir is a big concern for stability in South Asia and a big issue and a big source of tensions for India-Pakistan relations, all of which is true. So I imagine that Trump will bring up Kashmir, certainly in his private conversations with Prime Minister Modi, perhaps publicly as well. Of course, India doesn't want that. But the thing is, what Trump would do if he brings it up, he would essentially repeat what he has been saying for quite a few months, and that's that he would be happy to help out, he would be happy to mediate if both sides, Pakistan and India, ask. At the end of the day, India does not want mediation. It's not going to ask. So in effect, the offer that he may make is not really an offer, because India would not be willing to accept the mediation that he has said he would be willing to offer under certain circumstances.
Well, we have to wrap it up here, but good talking to you, Michael Kugelman.